Lassen, and I'm studying Spanish and Social Anthropology at the University of St Andrews. I'm participating in the Our New Gold Digital Storytelling Festival, and this is my artwork. Um, so basically, I've been reading Don Quixote in my Spanish class by Cervantes, and I was particularly inspired by the character Dulcinea, just in the way of how other people see her in the novel and how Don Quixote sees her, and probably in a way how she sees herself. And I just wanted to kind of capture this idea of how beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And that really was my central theme, as well as kind of reality versus illusion. So I've split the piece of artwork into two halves, where one is romanticized, idealized, kind of classical version of beauty, and the other is her as a peasant girl, with garlic in her hair. And I wanted to play around with this dichotomy of how, what we see isn't always the reality, and how other characters, in the novel see her, and how, in a way, she might see herself. I basically wanted to set it in the Cueva de Montesinos because in the novel, essentially, Sancho Panza tricks Don Quixote into thinking that Dulcinea has been put under a spell, and there are these peasant girls who come along, and Sancho Panza says that one of them is Dulcinea. So in the cave, essentially Don Quixote is having these visions, and he's trying to work out what the actual reality of Dulcinea is. If she is this peasant girl, or if she's this kind of beautiful, kind of classical image of beauty. So I wanted to kind of play around with that, hence the setting. And on the kind of idealized version of her face, the cave is just black. Whereas in the version where she's a peasant girl, the cave has stalagmites. So I wanted to play around with this idea of, the reality of the cave with the stalagmites being dark, dingy, kind of creepy, disconcerting, and then the other half is just plain black. So it's a more kind of romanticized, glorified image of the cave. Just showing how setting can also be something that can kind of, not exactly play tricks with our mind, but can be, subjective, and, different people can kind of interpret it in different ways. And then I wanted to have a golden border, because obviously this novel is from the Spanish Golden Age, hence as well the festival. And I did little drawings that depict different scenes and different characters that I particularly like the scene where Don Quixote is fighting these windmills that I really loved reading. And so for the background, I was originally actually thinking of maybe having a farm instead of the cave of Montesinos. And one part of so in the on the beautiful idealized version of her, in that half of the artwork, it was going to be this kind of beautiful farm with all the cute animals, the sun, the kind of dewy meadows, and this idea of kind of pastoral life as being romanticized and beautiful, and kind of this affinity with the countryside, kind of harking to pastoral literature. And then the other half, it was going to be the reality of the farm, and the kind of dirt and grubbiness and kind of hard work and labour that you would actually have, so a less kind of glamorised version. But then I thought, the cave of Montesinos is more kind of relevant, and it is where Don Quixote has these visions. So I thought that really maybe the cave would be a better setting, and also from a kind of aesthetic visual perspective, I kind of wanted to have a lot of the bright colours on the kind of more classically attractive side of her face. And I just thought if it had lots of greens and bright colours, then it might kind of fade into the background with her flowers and her hair, and I wanted that as a kind of focal point and kind of centrepiece. So basically in the end, I thought from an aesthetic, artistic perspective, in comparison to a conceptual one, that maybe I wouldn't do the farm. And I kind of liked having, the really kind of black, dramatic cave and this kind of golden border and the flowers, and I just thought, from a visual perspective, it kind of looked better like that. So on the kind of peasant girl side of her face, the flowers have actually kind of wilted, and yet again this ties into the dichotomy of kind of beauty and what we see as beauty and what we appreciate. The flowers are kind of wilted here, and on the other side of the painting, they're freshly plucked. They're bright. They're kind of they're kind of in full bloom, they're kind of just plucked from like the actual tree in this spatial moment, they kind of look perfect and kind of. So I wanted just to play around with the dichotomy of kind of the wilted flowers marching closer to death and the kind of freshly plucked flowers, and yet again showing the kind of reality of how everything does kind of wilter, and everything is actually very temporal, which is also a more kind of subtle theme in my artwork. And yeah, it was really fun, and just kind of placing the flowers and kind of experimenting with those. So basically this artwork is mixed media, so it has mainly pen and ink with acrylic paint and flowers, and I wanted it just a combination of different medias, because I just thought that would be more fun. Yeah, and I think, like I said, really the flowers is the kind of central kind of focal point, and there's honesty in her hair and different kinds of flowers, and that was probably the most fun to do. And in terms of how I actually created it, from a kind of practical point of view, I basically started with measuring everything out and kind of drawing the border, the kind of internal border, and then obviously drew out Dolcinea, the different proportions. And then I originally really coloured most things in pen at the beginning, and then I applied the paint, and I kind of did it from kind of her eyes and her nose and her lips, and I kind of expanded the painting in that way. And then obviously like added on the nose and the ears and the chin, and then I did the shading, and then I did the hair and the flowers, and then I painted the dress, and I also just kind of wanted her dress to be a very stylized image of like beauty and flowers and nature and purity and kind of classical beauty. And then I wanted the flowers to be more kind of real, and kind of less stylized. So that's my painting and piece of artwork, and it was really fun to do it. I particularly enjoyed using the flowers, and so thank you so much for listening, and I hope you like it, and I'm very happy to be part of this really interesting festival. Thank you so much.